Before code switching had a name, Black people in America were already negotiating voices, identities, and survival. From slavery's fields to segregated schools to early office jobs, the message was clear: adapt or be excluded. Generations have carried the weight of two languages, one for survival, one for self. But what happens when that balancing act follows us into today's boardrooms and break rooms? In a world where perceptions shape professional success, many Black Americans find themselves navigating two worlds, one true to their roots and one that fits the corporate mold. This is the story of code switching and how it affects the Black experience in corporate spaces. To understand what it means to live between two voices, we asked Black professionals across industries to tell us their stories in their own words.
Well, I think somewhere during the course of years, particularly, if I start dealing with from the beginning years of integration back in the 60s, well, actually, 1957 here in Little Rock was the first attempt at integrating the schools. And of course, everybody is aware of that with the Little Rock Central High crisis in 1957, integration crisis in 1957. And I was a senior in high school that year. The 57, 58 was my senior year in high school. And then, people were beginning to take note. When I say people now, I'm talking Black people were beginning to take note of the inequities that were being passed on. Everything from teachers in Black schools who were Black teachers were not getting paid as much as the teachers in the white schools, the inequity in that. The inequity as it related to educational supplies and equipment and this kind of thing. And so you weren't given the same opportunity to be exposed to the myriad of things. Say, for instance, students at Dunbar and then ultimately Horace Mann did not have the same level of course material that they had at Central. To a large part, that was because their PTAs and whatever, their parents' organizations, they would get in and fill out what was needed a lot of times. And the other was because we still had an unequal system whereby the types of resources made available for the Black schools were less than the types of resources made available for the white schools.
Code switching is the deliberate shifting between linguistic styles, such as African American Vernacular English and Standard English, used by Black Americans to adapt to social, cultural, and professional contexts. As Peter Oyer notes, it is a resource for meaning-making and relationship management, while Williams Ferrier emphasizes its role as both a tool of opportunity and a site of struggle, where authenticity and conformity are constantly negotiated.
In my generation, I'm not so certain that we dealt as much with code switching as we dealt with trying to put your best foot forward. I never thought, number one, it was never in my mind that someone was going to mistake me for being white. And I had the kind of training both from parents at home and for teachers at school who impressed upon us that we always needed, in essence, to be the best you. We were told over and over and over again, you can achieve, but you may have to be 2 times or 3 times or 10 times better than the white person, but never that you had to act white.
When it comes to code switching, I see code switching as fitting the occasion. I see it as still being an extension of your true self, but being able to fine tune it for the moment that you're currently in.
When I am talking about it, for me, it is about plurilingualism. It's about the fact that I speak 2 languages. I speak Standard American English and I speak African American English. I do both very well. And African American English is my first language. So when I'm thinking about code switching, it is more often that I am in a situation or a process where African American English is not the prominent language at that time, and thus it's necessary for me to speak Standard American English.
I think code switching is something that everybody does, regardless if you're black or white or whatever the case may be. To me, it means just your dialect, way you speak, how you interact with certain people. Because when you're at home, you're different. When you with your sorority sisters, you're different. When you have a group of different cliques of friends. So you're code switching, all the time, honestly. So to me, it's just different. Code switching means fitting in with the majority.
And so I'd say my first experience of code switching is having my mother verbally discipline me, and then at the same time going to a open house because she works in education, and just turn on that professional approach and professional appeal.
Probably K through 12th grade is when I would identify that's when it started happening. I was in AP classes in high school. At that time, there were only 4 Black students in the AP classes. Not that there shouldn't have been more, but when I look back, I see that the 4 of us were already very good at code switching. And that's most likely played a very large part with us being in the classes, because it's not that the others didn't have the intellect.
My first experience was in college when I worked for Dave & Buster's, so in Nashville, Tennessee. So naturally, I am from the country, deep country, so my accent is all over the place. But when I went to Nashville, we had bowling lanes, bowling alleys. So sometimes on weekends, they would have like a wait for the lanes. So I would have to, get on the mic and say, hey, family of 4, your lane is ready. And so I realized like my voice sounded different. I was like, I wasn't speaking the same way, but my family members would say, they let you get on the mic? They let you get on the mic? I'm like, yeah, they let me go. So I didn't realize that, but when I did it on the mic, I didn't get the same reaction. So I was like, oh, I must be speaking differently. So I think that's the first time I realized it.
Actually in grammar school, which I don't know that you would necessarily, it wouldn't have been identified as code switching, but where I could notice that there was a difference in the vernacular that I would use. So that was in grammar school where we moved neighborhoods. I had grown up in a very multicultural, diverse neighborhood, and moved to a predominantly Black neighborhood, and went from a language arts academy to a Catholic grammar school, and was told that I was like, why was I trying to be white? Why was I trying to be so proper? And so that's when I realized that there was there's this kind of like a difference in vernacular and in ways that you operate in different scenarios.
Code switching is not just about words. It's about identity, survival, and the negotiation of belonging. For many, code switching has become a finely honed skill, a way of speaking, gesturing, even moving differently to match the expectations of the corporate world.
I would say childhood, but through my school experience of being the talented 10th, being, being groomed for excellence, being groomed to be successful. So it was already intact and already just a part of how I operated in the world by the time I got to college. And even in high school, and again, I mean, I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that, these conversations are happening and people are able to, discuss these things, because when I was coming up, it was just a part. It's like, if you want to be successful, if you want to be taken seriously, then you need to be able to present yourself in the same way that the conformed culture is being presented, So if this is what is professional, you need to match that and be 1,000% better.
I'm in banking. I've been in banking for 20 plus years, and I've worked for traditional banks. Some of them where, the majority of the clientele don't look like me. So in that space, I have to code switch or I have to be a little different. I was in a management position. The individuals that I managed, some of them were a different race than I was and older than I was. So even in that, I had to be mindful of how I spoke to my staff, how I corrected my staff, and just make sure that I didn't make them feel a certain way because of age difference or race difference, and to make sure that I wasn't discriminating.
It looks like stress much of the time. It has to do with kind of getting in your head, wondering, are you enough? Are you going to be perceived as angry? Are you going to be perceived as passionate? Are you going to be perceived as lazy? And so doing a lot of extra that is not actually warranted, showing up early, leaving late, not asking for help, those types of things. It can also look like anxiety, being extra thoughtful or ruminating about what other people are thinking about you or how they're thinking about how you're showing up.
The majority of the time, I feel like I'm not able to say what I want to say or what I need to say in the moment because of code switching, and especially in a corporate environment. Certain things cannot be said, and some things don't have a code switch language, if that makes sense. But I would say there is emotion tied to it. I guess you could say I feel a little watered down. I feel like I can't actually share my real voice or my real perspective on something if I have to code switch.
To me, I thought Black people spoke a certain way around Blacks and versus non-Blacks, but then it also depends on where you are from, culturally speaking. But I do think when I'm around people who look like me, I'm freer, I'm lighter, so there's a happy kind of emotion that's mixed with it versus when I'm at work in meetings, I can feel like I naturally code switch, but after a meeting or after that day, I'm like, whew, now I can I need to go out with some friends for a drink because it's emotionally exhausting, whether you realize it or not, because now it is a natural thing that you have to do. And then sometimes make you question, like, is it code switching or are you just being more professional versus unprofessional,
Me personally, having been an entrepreneur and in a corporate environment, maybe I've been accustomed to code switching just because you want to feel like you're not threatening.
Code switching is a journey. So previously, I think I would look at code switching as, or the emotions would be anger or frustration. That's something that even had to happen. Because anytime someone has to, a group, a population, a culture has to make themselves small in order to fit in, that is absolutely a type of oppression. But now I look at it as the resilience and the intellect of individuals that are having to navigate spaces that are different, and the added, if you will, social intelligence that comes along with us being able to effectively do that. So there's a pride instead of that anger that I used to feel.
Code switching has allowed people to receive what I'm trying to relay and not have any barriers and try to be like, but now I've got to get through my own mental filters and I've got to try to, understand or anything like that. Like it's definitely made it so that, okay, I'm relaying information, I'm presenting myself in a way that I can be best received. And I know some people have issue with that because some people feel like, oh, but you're changing yourself or you're changing who you are. But again, because of the way that I was brought up, it's a part of who I am to want to present myself in a certain way if I'm wanting to be received professionally or seriously, taken seriously. So for me, it's not really I'm pretending to be this way and I'm pretending to be that way. The core of me is the core of me. And so I do feel like it has helped. Because I feel like if I came to professional meetings or in professional settings the same way that I show up, at my sister's house, just super casual, there's the chance that what I'm trying to you know, the whatever information I'm trying to relay won't get received. So it is directly like all intertwined and tied up in what professionalism, what I was taught professionalism is. And so only now, as it's interesting because again, my path has been really different. I have carved my own path. I've done a lot of things that people are like, what the heck are you doing, Lee? I've been like very like intentional about I want to do what I want to do the way I want to do it. And so, but even in that, there has been okay, if I'm going to this and I'm going to present myself like, if I'm going into this environment, I need to go into this environment with these things intact. You know, even if I'm creating my own paths and I'm not doing the traditional thing, and I'm not, you know, because I went to school for engineering, I worked as an engineer for only a few years before I decided to do a bunch of other stuff that was just important to me. But still, this sense of what is professional, what is casual, was still, you know, ingrained in the way that I operate in the world. And I can say that like very much made a difference in how people perceived me and you know, how people interacted with me. And especially because like at one time, like in the early 2000s, I had locks down my back. So in order to go into certain environments with locks down my back, I don't know that I had to carry myself a certain way, but I absolutely did.
I think that code switching absolutely helped my growth as it relates to being able to network in different spaces, to navigate different spaces. My sister is like, you be laughing at white jokes. And I do, because these are things that I enjoy. I have multidimensional like everybody else. It's just that my high school was all the way out in Pulaski, and that's what my friends look like. Didn't change the fact that I still had Black friends and was shooting dice at lunch. But I got to see very different things and never had an issue fitting in. And thus in my professional life, those things have benefited me.
I have been able to be in spaces and in rooms that I probably 20 years ago, I wouldn't have thought that I would be in. And it's because people see that I can adapt. Without changing who I am, I know how to adapt in that space. So it has truly allowed me to gain relationships with people, be on boards or be involved in organizations, helped my career. So even though back then I probably questioned why I would modify, but now I truly understand why I need to modify, because it does open doors and opportunities that if I didn't, I probably wouldn't be.
Really, when I see other African Americans in corporate America, I do what I'm doing right now, smile really big. I see it as an ally. So for the most part, it really helps me like be my true self, seeing other African Americans.
Black people can be in a group talking, 3 or more, and that's a problem, right? So you'll have some Black people who would group and talk to each other, and some of them be like, I ain't going in that group because I already know what the perspective is from other people. So I think that mindset of Black people is saddening to me, because it doesn't matter. We care so much about what other people think to where we are disrespecting or putting our own, at the bottom of the barrel. So in corporate world, I actually reach out to the other Black professionals. I try to get to know them and their experience in that space, or their experience with the company. And if they share, that's fine. If they don't, that's fine. But I also speak to what, as a company, what we can do for, minorities, specifically Black people, because with me managing benefits, a lot of times that's forgotten. We're not even thought. There's other groups of people that are thought about versus us. So a lot of Black people are uncomfortable, when you bring that up, or they're definitely not going to bring it up. So it's a mix of emotions when it comes to interacting with other Black people. But once you have a certain sense of trust, Black people in the corporate world is amazing. Like, girl, did you just hear that what they said on that call? So you just have to balance it out and just feel what you're comfortable with other Black people and others too. But it's awkward sometimes.
When I enter a corporate space, and let's say there are not a lot of identified Blacks in the space, When we see each other, there is the obligatory head nod that says, I see you. But as far as engaging past that, I feel like there has to be this conversation where in the conversation, something is, if you will, dropped that says, I see you. And then, yes, we engage differently. In the event that I'm around a Black person or African American person who not only is not code switching, but I feel like the things that they're doing are for the majority of the white gays. And no, I don't engage with those individuals because I don't feel any more safe around them than I do around my white peers.
I think it does just kind of happen naturally, like, and it's a level of comfort. Like there was something when I was at a professional meeting, myself and a couple other people in this particular ecosystem were doing something, and like, yeah, I said hi to some of the people differently than I said hi to the other folks.
If I see someone that was once like I was, and I know they have the potential to be in spaces that I have experienced, I try to coach them. I don't try to correct them, but I try to coach them and let them know that you too can be around these people, or when you are around in certain spaces around certain people, there's a way to adapt. You can still be yourself, but there's a way to where you won't feel awkward, or they won't look at you like you're the, why are you here? They would truly look at you like you're supposed to be here.
Code switching carries weight. The stress of constant adjustment, the quiet exhaustion of never fully exhaling. Yet within that weight lives resilience. This is not just a story of burden. It is a story of power, of voices that adapt and endure, of identities that hold both struggle and pride. In the tension between survival and authenticity, many have found not just coping mechanisms, but pathways to change, redefining what it means to belong and reshaping what professionalism can be.
So with me, Kim is everywhere she goes. My personality will go in every space, in every room, and will interact with anybody. I can have a conversation with anyone that wants to have a conversation with me. I don't change who I am. I honestly tap into a person that I didn't know who I was, or I'm able to have conversations and realize, wow, I'm smarter than what I thought, or I know more than what I thought I knew. So it doesn't make me change. It just makes me just think more, think before I speak sometimes. And it allows me to see the potential of my own self.
I wish they understood if they would just pause and listen to the lived experience of others, that they would see that they do not have to code switch as often. I also wish that they understood the intellect that it takes to do that. So there was a study recently, and they had elementary age children, Black kids and white kids. They showed them a picture. On this picture, Cookie Monster was laying on the bed and he was sick looking. Elmo was standing next to him eating cookies. They asked the white kids, who be eating cookies? They said Elmo. They then said, who is eating cookies? They again said Elmo. They asked the Black kids, who be eating cookies? They said Cookie Monster. They said, who is eating cookies? They said Elmo. In African American English, we have what's called the habitual be, right? So while Cookie Monster may not be eating them right now, we know he be eating cookies, right? Our babies at this age are able to code switch and understand the differences between these languages. And if we started looking at them as being bilingual, we would see it as intellect and not as this hindrance where they're being too Black. They're actually being quite exceptional.
I was in San Francisco just a few weeks ago for a homegoing celebration, and I went to the bar in my hotel by myself because I traveled there by myself. And I sat at the bar. There were 4 men, myself and one other woman, a Caucasian woman, and she was there with a Caucasian friend. But there were 3 other men to the other side of me, and we were watching sports, the football game, on a Thursday night. And because I love football, I watch football, I was able to converse with those 3 Caucasian men. One was a private pilot that have clientele that I couldn't even tell, that clientele of people that we all know. we were all from different walks of life, but we talked about the areas that we're from. We related to sports. We related to the food, to the drinks. And for me to be the only Black female sitting at that bar, the next day we were all at the bar. We were there the next evening again, talking, eating, and drinking. So those did let me know that I'm authentic. I can relate to anybody that may not look like me, or their income may be higher than mine, and their career may be different than mine, but we all share some of the same values, some of the same goals. And a lot of us, we do care about one another, whether we believe it or not. So
during, after George Floyd, where all of a sudden everybody's eyes they couldn't keep their eyes closed anymore. They couldn't keep their eyes closed anymore about bias and privilege and those things. And so them understanding that they are living in a society that has been completely designed around what they have said is right. And so to continue to dismantle that and then create something that's way more inclusive and way more just true to what's actually like the human beings that actually live on the planet at the moment. All the ones that live around you, not just the ones that you've decided that's been decided that this is the standard.
What started to happen with the integration of schools, which meant not just the student bodies being integrated, but also an integration of faculty. And so then a lot of students had white teachers who were not really interested in whether or not that Black child learned. Whereas before, your Black teachers were determined to pull out of you the best. And when they saw potential, they would not let you sleep on it, so to speak, And I think over the years, that led to degradation of what Black students started to learn. And also many of them fell behind. And I think we're still suffering from that now. Every time you see the stats, if it's third graders in the predominantly Black school, what their reading scores are, and the third graders in another school, what their reading scores are. So somewhere, as a people, Black people now, we've got to pick up that torch again and make certain our children are getting what they need to succeed in life. Black world, white world, red world, brown world, they've got to know that they've got to succeed, but they have to have the tools.
It's a balance in that, I feel like. You have to especially when in corporate America, you're around all types of people. But I truly feel like if people were okay with who they are, there'd probably be less code switching, in our community.
The coping mechanisms that I recommend for people who are experiencing stress from code switching is to create safe places so that you can be surrounded by people that you feel comfortable and safe being your authentic self. If you are a part of a particular faith community, then being a part of that faith community. If you are a part of a particular community that is disadvantaged, finding ways to connect with that community, whether it be joining book clubs with them or going out to dinner afterwards or connecting, but whatever it is, the person that you feel like you're suppressing, make sure that you make opportunities to connect with others. The other piece is figuring out how you can find employment or create employment, become self-employed in a way so that you can express yourself. If you are creative, it is not a good idea for you to be employed as, I'm going to say, an IT person. Forgive me, IT people. If that doesn't work for you, so finding sometimes the answer is not to code switch, but the answer is to create other revenues of income so that you can and so that you can be your authentic self and help others become comfortable with being their authentic self.
When I am in a role, I like to think about it just like that. I'm going to bring my whole authentic self in that space because I want to stretch it out like this so that the person behind me doesn't have to fit in that box. More often than not, we get in a role and we think if we mess up, they're not going to hire another Black person. Okay, well if that's how they want to be, that's fine. But don't not be you because of that fear. Do everything that it is that makes you you because that's what you bring to the team. And if you keep doing that and we keep doing that, the people behind us don't have to fit in that little bitty box that requires quote code switching, even when we don't have the energy to do so.
It's important to know yourself and your Blackness, and that no matter what environment that you go into, no matter how many times you may have to adjust the way you say a certain phrase, or you have to speak a certain way, or kind of conform to a certain dialect, that you are enough. You know, the way that you communicate is enough. The way that you articulate your words and your slang and your ebonics is still enough, and you don't have to shrink your Blackness no matter what space you're in.
More so than learning how to code switch, I would say learning how to be authentically yourself first, and then learning how to relay information in the way that you want it to be received. So that can change by, situation by situation, right? So, but if you know who you are authentically, first off, so I would say that's your first assignment, your first job is to know who you are authentically. Line it out. Like, what are your values? Actually, laying out what your values are can be super helpful. We have, like, our director here has a personal mission statement, personal vision, creating those for yourself. Those can then help you to then, so that whenever you're going out and wanting to be received by someone, you don't feel like you are shifting your core, right? So if you know your core, then you will automatically keep your core intact and then decide, okay, what's the best way for me to relay this information? What's the best way for me to present myself, right? But again, it's not affecting your core. So I feel like that really is, that's the advice that I would give.
I would say if you are unsure, find a mentor. Someone who wouldn't mind, like my mentor. Her name is Angela Thomas, if I don't mind sharing her name. She was the editor of AY Magazine, and she touched so many, because of her position, she was able to touch so many spaces, but she was my mentor. She taught me so much about how to engage with different races, how to interact with different races, how to be in those spaces, the attire to wear to these spaces. Because in a minute she would call and say, hey, I need you to be here with me. And I had to learn how to have the type of attire to wear to a Black cocktail event or a formal event. Before her, I didn't have that attire in my closet. But I had to be like, okay, I always have to have these type of things. But find a mentor to teach you and coach you and guide you. But make sure they have the best interest, your best interest in heart, that they want to see you advance in your career, build your network. You hear that your network is your net worth. Build your network. Be able to feel confident when you walk in these rooms or be in these spaces with people, and know that I deserve to be here too. I deserve to have a seat at the table, and I can still be my authentic self. I may have to tone it down a little, or I may have to watch the language or the words that I use, but I can still portray and still be passionate and still be myself, even through code switching.
You are still you, and that you are special. There is no other you. You know that you're good. You know that you're God's creation, and you know that you're capable. And I'm not letting anyone tell me I'm not. If I don't know how to do it today, it's because I haven't found how. But before tomorrow comes, I will have found out how. And so I always know that whatever it is that you're having a struggle with, an obstacle to overcome, keep saying to yourself, I can. That I can do this. And regardless, your skin color may be different from mine, but your brain is the same. It's fine. And mine is the same color as yours. And I'm gonna make certain that I use my brain power to the utmost. And you can't do anything about it.
To code switch is to survive, but to be authentic is to thrive. The work to build inclusive spaces where all voices continues. Each story is unique, but together they echo one truth. Authenticity is not weakness, it is strength. As tomorrow unfolds, the question still echoes. What power lies in bringing our whole selves wherever we go? Awareness opens the door, while courage and community hold it wide until every voice has its rightful place at the table.